It is
Excellent.
Saturday. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. I've already had two mimosas. I'm buzzed. And I have two of the coolest cats on the planet with me right now. We have Levi Combs and Skitterbug Green. Hey guys.
Back again.
Hey there.
I'm just gonna show up every weekend.
I
It'll,
think
There you
it'll
go.
just be Alyssa and me as her sidekick, and then we will have some random sacrificial lamb. This week it gets to be Levi Combs.
Hey, I was a little alarmed that it was Skeeter Green versus Levi Combs. What is that all about?
well, you're the one on Facebook that posted your mask. I saw that and I'm like, all right. And I know Skeeter does his whole woohoo like
Yeah,
wrestling
Oh,
thing.
good point.
I got to be Ric Flair at Crit Hit Con in Arizona, and it was amazing. You would have. I wish Levi you would have been there, and it would have been fantastic. We got
Did you
to
do
act
the?
out. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we got for like an hour and a half. We just acted out Monday Night Raw. So it was John Wick from Chaosium in Seventh Sea. He um he basically has a wrestling role playing setup where you have to describe your actions. So you are telling the story of wrestling.
Oh, beautiful.
It was amazing. And of course, I couldn't do it. So I start pantomiming everything. And, I want to do the fake chops and, all the woos and all that stuff. But because John is a huge wrestling fan, huge. And so we were putting it on. There were some people who were wrestlers, and even my wife Jen, she
But
was a
like real
wrestler.
wrestlers.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
like she portrayed Charlotte Flair, and I was Ric Flair. I didn't know people were supposed to make up their own wrestling personalities. So me coming in there in costume as Ric Flair kind of screwed everybody else because I'm the man. Um, and John Wick has a wrestling championship belt, and he let me hold on to it, and I was the champ. And we had the last match, but he did him and some other people. They did interviews, so they would be talking, doing the interviews in wrestling, and I would come out. I would interrupt all of the interviews as Ric
Oh,
Flair and just be like, "What? What? Woo!" Just doing the whole thing. And then at the very end, when I was getting the beat down, unbeknownst to John at all, I had taken a bunch of ketchup packets and I put them in my pocket. So when I got the final beat down, I ripped them open and squirted them on my head and was facing away from him and turned around, and he fell off his chair because I did the whole Ric Flair blading thing. Oh God, it was
no,
so
no,
much
sure,
fun.
sure.
It was
Just
so much fun.
styling, profiling.
Yep,
Oh yeah.
yep.
You're such a wallflower, Skeet. Such a
Yeah,
wallflower.
hey, I mean, if people want to go to a convention and have some entertainment, I will be that entertainment.
You will bring it. You will bring it. I want to say good morning to King Bashman. Welcome, my friend. It's great having you here. Levi, why don't you tell us? I'm actually really almost tempted to have Skeeter introduce you. But Levi, I'm not going to do that to you. Who are you? Tell us about Levi Combs.
Well, I'm a lot of things. I'm a dad and a husband and a friend and a traveler and a beardo and all kinds of stuff. But as far as the things that people here would know me for, I own Planet X Games, and we do adventure modules and games and kind of some smaller things too. Um, but yeah, just OSR from back in the day. Been playing since I was just a little tyke, and it just never really stopped. I always loved monsters and weird things and games, and I kind of figured at some point that I would just maybe grow out of it or stop playing or whatever, but nope.
That doesn't happen. That does not
Never
happen.
did.
No.
Yeah, never did. So
Yeah,
that.
for years when I used to work at Frog God Games, Casey Christopherson used to always like monthly hit me up about this guy. Yeah, my boy Levi, he's got this. he's got this writing. What can we do to get this into Frog God? And I was like, this is not going to fit at all. I mean, I'm sorry. I want to help you out. We need to do something, but this is not going to fit in the product structure. And
No.
like monthly, I would get this. He's like, yeah, my boy Levi, he's got this whole grindhouse style. We need to get this, we need to get it out there. And I kept trying to figure out how I could help Levi get more out there. And it just didn't work and didn't work and didn't work. And then finally Planet X started putting out their own stuff. And I'm just like, man, I should have jumped on the bandwagon sooner.
So what is Planet
I
X? What is Planet X? Tell us about it.
So, like where the term comes from, or
No. Like I've heard some things about Planet X, man. I mean, give me the elevator speech version about what really makes Planet X stand out, because I know
the elevator
this.
speech. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so my interests, and I think this is what makes me genuine as far as my stuff goes. But my interests are, I love grindhouse films. I love old sci-fi B movies. I love the old genre and exploitation films. All the stuff through the 60s, 70s, 80s, even as far back as the 50s. I love those old vintage retro films. And for years, I just wasn't seeing the kind of stuff that I wanted necessarily had zeroed in on that I wanted to play. I wasn't seeing that in RPGs. Not to say that it wasn't out there, because obviously there's it's such a huge hobby, and there's all kinds of brilliant people working on stuff. I just wasn't seeing it. So I started kind of just infusing the things that I liked about retro pop culture and these films that I love so much, and kind of trying to find a way to form some sort of marriage between the two. And that's where Planet X Games came from. I did a couple, my first couple modules they're homage modules, really, where I merged kind of the sort of the grindhouse stuff that I like so much, and that exploitation genre B-movie feel with the themes from classic modules that I love so much. Like if you look at my first one, it's Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. I love Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan so much that I like the idea of this Indiana Jones jungle temple, in some sort of inaccessible green hell in the Forbidden South. But you start getting into the more cinematic flavor, to things. So I just infused different things that I liked about different genres and different films, and the way that those kind of played out on screen. And I put those in the module, along with all my own weird, stuff. I mean, again, it's not rocket science. It's just what I like. I don't want to oversell it, which is, So,
and Jungle Tomb was the impetus for me to get off my ass and release Crypt of the Science Wizard. So every time he brings up Mummy Bride, I always am sure to say he was what pushed me to get off the sidelines and do mine as well. So thank you very much, brother.
Very kind of you to say, but I don't know. You were doing a lot of stuff, before you ever did Crypt of the Science Wizard, though. So,
well, yeah, well, I had to, toe the corporate line with, Frog God Games, which anybody who knows Frog God Games knows that's a load of bullshit. So, but no, it was a lot like when you started. There were specific things I wanted to do, and they didn't fit in, a distinct product line that was already, established. So I had to go off on my own, and you've been killing it.
Well, I'm trying to. I don't know.
Take a deep dive and describe an occurrence at Howling Crater. Please spend some time describing that one.
Alyssa, I don't know if you're familiar with this. I wrote I don't know. Last year, I put out a module called "An Occurrence at Howling Crater." It's basically if Plan 9 from Outer Space had a baby with The Hills Have Eyes, and then they let that baby smoke crack in a spaceship. it had all kinds of all the things that I wanted to see in kind of a barrier peaks that I wasn't seeing there, or like was it Firestorm Gates of Firestorm Peak, or any of those old school modules where they blend sci-fi with fantasy, those genre breakers,
Yep.
um,
Barrier peaks, man.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Again, I love these homage modules. That's my homage to Barrier Peaks. Obviously, it's a spaceship crashing the side of a mountain. There's only so many ways you can go with it. So I decided I was going to have this crazy crater mutant hillbilly family that was worshiping chunks of the deteriorating atomic core, and there was an AI that was insane, and you throw a little bit of Event Horizon in there, you throw a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder as you ride it.
So weird.
You have basically described all of the horror genres that I can't watch.
Oh, you would hate this module because it is a perfect example. I mean,
Oh, no, Jack laps that shit up. Like he laps it up, and for me, it makes me nauseous. It makes me cringe. I just want to escape the room. And that's awesome.
It is The Hills Have Eyes with spacemen. I mean, it is very disturbing, and that comes from me. I loved it. It was perfect. It was right up my alley.
The thing is, though, is that when you look at the goals you want to hit, like I wanted to write like a shock exploitation kind of deal. Like not every project I do is going to be like that. Like the next one that I'm doing has nothing like Currents of Howling Crater, but I wanted to make sure that I hit at least one time. I wanted to make sure that I hit that that creepy, crazy, that Hills Have Eyes vibe, that crater mutant, these things slinking out of caves and gobbling you up at night. So
and you got both of you actually got quite a compliment to Old Gator Games said you're both inspirational that way. It's given momentum to the small publishers, so props to you both. And Cave Geek, damn right, I've got Skeeter Green on again. We're already talking about Skeeter Green being my weekend partner. Anytime I stream in the weekend, Skeeter's here. Skeeter Saturday.
Worst.
Skeeter Saturday. Apparently it's a thing.
I'm like a virus.
You are?
not that we need any more viral outbreaks, but yeah. No, and the small publisher thing is something that I'm really trying to champion a lot recently, just because I've found so many people who want to do something. Like a couple of months ago, there was a big movement on Kickstarter to put out zines, and Levi did one, the Phylactery. That's ready to go here pretty soon, isn't it, buddy?
Ship. I get the proofs on Monday, and then just as soon as I can get them in, I'll get them out to everybody. So probably by the end of the month.
Yeah. So that's I mean, I know I'm dating myself back with the old grognards, but back in the day, that's how you got gaming material, was zines and just fan material while you were waiting for TSR to put something else out. So the fact that this is now coming out is great for small publishers because it's a way to get in without cementing your whole personal fortune into a game that may or may not work. And the thing about zines are, if they are done authentically, you will get the people who are interested in that, and they will support you. There were, dozens of them, and some of them were similar, but a lot of them were different enough that it was like, oh yeah, I really want to read that article. I mean, I looked at I've probably got 6 or 7 of them that I'm waiting on that are
same.
Yeah, just amazing. Levi did one, Tim DeShane did one,
which looks amazing, by the way.
Oh, and it's got that super creepy vibe that Alyssa is gonna hate too. And all it is it's a little house on this just like dusty old farmland, and you just know some shit's gonna come out of that house that you're not gonna like. I mean, it's got a great vibe. The art. One of the reasons why I love the zine movement is it can get people in to do some art, to do some writing, to do some layout that they may not get that chance or opportunity with larger books. And the more we can start getting people in, the more that you find the next, you know, Chuck Wright or Susie Mosby or Rocky Gardner. You know, those are just the layout people. Artists, I mean, I hear good things about this new person, Fadden. She might have some chops, you know, one day if
No,
we can
she's
get her
slow as
some
shit, man.
exposure.
She's slow as shit. She's full of herself. She hates everyone else, and she's got her head stuck in the past. You can't work with her.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's unofficial, but you know.
Yeah, I've heard good and bad. But no, that I mean, I am trying with the little bit of exposure and bandwidth I'm able to put out there. I want to see more people get their shot. I mean, if Levi had not had Casey Christopherson talk him up, we would be a poorer world for not having his RPG contributions. And I think just people need that. People need a toe in.
I think the zine movement too. That is a really, like you were saying, good way for people to get their feet wet. But also, you can produce a zine for a very small cost. It doesn't have to be super fancy. I've seen the ones that I'm getting in so far. I've seen them range in quality from, you know, just very slick, you know, kind of delayed blast game master or black pudding, where the art is just gorgeous, the layouts impeccable, all the way down to some others that, you know, like Temple of the Blood Moth, where it's, you know, literally he just folded, you know, some paper and put some staples in there, and it's all off typeset. You know, it has a real kind of old school feel, but the content is just 2 thumbs up. I mean, it's great. So if you really want to make something, you can do it. You know, there's really nothing stopping you. You know, you can put up your, you know, $500 or $600, you know, goal for just the minimum of publishing,
right,
and get it done.
Well, there was so on Goddammit Zach, we go through Kickstarters and we show things that are about to close and try to, you know, get a little bit more bandwidth. There was one zine, and I think it was called Goddamn Dungeon Punks or something like that. Just, I mean, crazy but super authentic.
Yep.
And
I backed it.
and because of the show, I mean, it had like 7 days left to go, and it was not going to fund.
No.
Because of the show, it funded, and I don't know if we fucked that dude by getting his book funded or not, but I looked on his announcement for his Kickstarter. He's doing another one.
But
So,
Good.
I think that is fantastic.
that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, start some momentum, because I mean, when I started in RPGs, it was because I got on the Necromancer Games forum, and Casey Christopherson didn't want to do trap stat blocks for 3.0. So he was just like, "Hey, I got this trap, man. I need somebody to put some game mechanics to it." And I was like, "I can do that." And that's how I got in, because Casey was a lazy bitch, and I am thankful to him every day since that. I have met fantastic people. I have had some of the weirdest encounters I never thought would happen. But yeah, it's just get people a shot, and then once people have gotten their shot, it's up to them.
No, for sure. The best advice that Casey gave me was just write it. He's like, you have it in your head. You know what you want to do, whether or not it finds an audience or not. Just write it, you know. And then, which was good, because once I got into write, I got past all my own roadblocks, mental and otherwise. And once I just started writing, I was like, oh well, yeah, there's more. And then, oh, over here there's more and more, you know, until I had, you know, a 64-page book, and I'm like, oh, there really was more than just the 8 pages that I thought were rattling around in my head, you know.
Right. Yeah. When I did Crypt, my goal was to make the old TSR 16-page module. When I was done, it was 44.
Yeah.
You know, there
go.
was some scope creep there.
No, for sure. And sometimes, you know, it's hard because sometimes you gotta kill off little bits and whatnot.
Right.
But those little bits, you put them away, and then 3 years later they turn into something else.
Right.
You know, like you look at a lot of these zines that, you know, like my zine is just, it's a hodgepodge of things, but it's all stuff that grew from other projects or that I've had kind of marinating over here for a while, and you can put it together, you know, and it's useful to somebody, you know, as long as, I don't know, I've always had this kind of this outlook on things where when it comes to art, you need to make it for yourself. You need when you're done with it, as long as you're somewhere where you can be kind of satisfied, or I don't want to use the word happy, but you know, somewhere in that area, that's the real reward. And then if somebody likes it enough to pay for it later on, well, that's just bonus. You know, that's the extra.
Absolutely. So, Alyssa,
Yes.
when you do maps, it's got to be kind of different than what we're talking about for writing a module. Because I mean,
Oh, for sure.
You have specifics you have to hit, correct?
Yes. I don't know, man. That's an interesting question. I think it is completely different, sure, but depending upon the amount of leeway I get, it can also be a little bit the same. So, you know, if we take a look at Lightharbor here for Noble Dwarf, it had specifics and it's almost, it reads like a story, but in a geographic sense, it's like it is this ancient city that is spilled out beyond its walls, that it has an elven garden at its heart. It's based upon the mouth of an estuary. It has a lighthouse in the middle of town. So these geographic things are, you know, where I'm fixed in the same way that you guys probably, you know, you have this. Well, I mean, I've written too. I mean, you have a plot, you have the framework that you want to fit within. You know where it's starting, you know where it ends. A map is much the same way. What is in the middle is then where the creative juices come in, right? And so for me, I mean, fortunately, the dwarves were super lenient on like what I do in there. So you guys are writing, it's coming from your own brain. Well, this has been the same way. Like everything that we see on this map now, all of these details, all of the little, whether it be the pubs and the tables out there, or just even the fact that we've got farms in between these hills, that's me. So that's where my writing comes in, so to speak. I've had other clients that are a little bit more restrictive, where my creative freedom is less. I mean, I'm going to actually pick on Tegel Manor. I mean, Tegel Manor, there's an existing map, and there's existing rooms, and here's the writing for each one. Draw that. My creative freedom then has to come from putting Crypt of the Science Wizard on a gaming table in this room.
And that was fucking hilarious. There is a little tiny module. If you blow the map up, there is Crypt of the Science Wizard on a table in Tegel Manor.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the Garrycon map. I put the same setup on the Garrycon map this year.
Oh, that's great. There is also, if I remember correctly, a crumpled up "Goddammit Zach" t-shirt in a hallway, isn't there?
There is actually a crumpled up dead Zach in a Goddammit Zach
Even
t-shirt.
better.
Yeah, he's dead. He's actually, and I can't give you the full description because people might get in trouble. But let's just say Zach's dead in a secret corridor with a Goddammit Zach shirt on, and he's got his hand on a player's guide to a system he loves very, very much.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to dig that up and take a look again. That's funny as so. In certain cases, you are allowed some creative license.
Yeah.
For maps.
And I actually like having a little bit of creative license. Otherwise, there's no soul in a map.
So you're putting your own Easter eggs in there, just, you know, whether or not it's for your own enjoyment or it's going to appeal to a broader base. They're in there.
They're in there. I do it partly for my own enjoyment, Levi, but also partly because I'd like people to lean into my maps. I'd like people to go, oh, there's some steps here. Where did they go? Well, if I'm doing more of a battle scale, I can really start like playing around with this. So with the GaryCon map this year, I mean, I want people to look at it in 2 years' time and go, holy shit, is that egg in the wall? Just like the expedition to the Barrier Peaks, and there is. But I wrote it in stone. But it's a little Easter egg, a little paying homage to the past. There is a dead Zack on that map as well. There is.
I'm
Zach's
sensing a
having a bad
theme.
day.
There also is the ghost of Jennifer Glazar is on that map as well.
Oh boy.
And there's a few other Easter eggs as well. Yeah, no, I like doing them. I mean, so on this map here, and again, it's because Noble are kind of like, no, do your thing, it's fine, we're actually going to write it into the scenario. I have, right here, Clockingham Palace. This is,
That's amazing.
and you know where this comes from, right? This is Lloyd's place. He's got Clockingham Palace, he's got Jeremy Cloxham, Cloxham, and so I drew it in there, and then Radney, Stephen, he wanted to do a little commune where people get together looking over the ocean. So all of these little Easter eggs are in there, and the noble dwarf are actually going to ride a man.
Oh, that's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah, when Zach and I were finishing up Bard's Gate, and we had the Bard's Gate map, unbeknownst to anyone else, because on that book I had final authority, we put RPG famous people's names as the street names for everything in there. And the good thing about that is people see it later on and they're like, oh, holy shit, my name's in there, I'm a shopkeeper. That kind of stuff is great, but the downfall to that is you automatically forget like a million people that you wish you put in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do the Easter egg thing. There's actually a question in here I think all three of us should bat around.
Go on.
In the chat. What do you guys think? Start with a map and move to the adventure, or start with the adventure and then compose the map?
Levi, take it.
You start, buddy.
So Matt Finch actually asked me this question when I was on his show. He says that he starts with a map and then goes out from that. But I'm the exact opposite way. What I'll do is I before I even have a map at all, I'll get a piece of paper and I'll literally cover it in ideas, little phrases or names, organizations, spell names, plot hooks, little adventure tidbits, little crunchy things, monsters I want to use, magic items I want to, whatever. And I'll cover it. And if I have something after putting everything down, and I'm looking at it, after I get kind of an idea for things, then I'll move on to a map. But exactly the opposite way than you're probably supposed to do it.
So the crazy thing about that is Matt was at TotalCon earlier this year, and I think it was the second or third day I was in his game during the day, and we were getting ready to go to the game, and he was just like, I am burnt out. I was up all night. I can't even think. Draw me a map for my game. And I'm like, okay. So I start just, doing the whole, first edition DMG. Okay, I'm going to put some geomorphs here, and
Sure.
Random right or left turn, all this stuff. And then he built the adventure off of a map he was literally looking at as he was going. Completely coherent, and that's why he's a fucker. He did give me a bunch of shit that I didn't have enough. So the session ended. We were screwing around in some of the rooms, so the session ended a little bit shorter than normal, but it was okay. So the next day, I'm in his game again, and he's like, all right, come up with a map. And in that case, I had a little bit of time, so I did an entire page. And then just to be an asshole, I ripped the edges of the page and crumpled it all up so it actually looked like a map. And I handed
Right.
it to him, and I'm like, all right, there you go. Make an adventure out of that. And he did. And it
Yeah.
was hella fun. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you don't get to the status Matt's at without you breaking a few omelets and making a few masterpieces. You know what I mean?
he's got to be great at just improv. I would love to see him do some improv acting. I mean,
No, for sure.
that would just be amazing.
I think
mean,
I think a good map though. I think a good map and a good GM.
Yeah,
You
there you go.
you can start there. I mean, I've run games from just a map, a little bit like Matt. And I think a good map can inspire the imagination too. You know, depending on what's on it. I mean, I had someone in the Twitch stream the other day looking at this map. In fact, I think it was in just the graveyard area that I've just brought up. And like they were like, I want to run a game just here, and so it's already getting their creative juices going. But as a writer, or the writing part of me, I actually it's the writing that starts, not the map. Converse, you know, maybe even oddly, being that I like drawing maps. But I mean, I prefer to think about plot, people, events, piecing them together, you know, throwing bits away, inserting, and then how am I going to link them? Then the maps come afterwards. I mean, I might be thinking about locations. I might even be down to a particular room and where the actors are positioned in it. But it's really, it's the story that drives for me, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, when I was doing Crypt and trying to figure that out, I knew it was supposed to be an homage to Tomb of Horrors. I started with that, and then I actually looked at real Egyptian tombs and saw their layout and what was involved, and they had, you know, here's a covered over utility room that they used for staging that was not part of the tomb. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to include that. So then I started penciling out a map and then did some of the story, and I'm like, well, I need another room to finish telling this story. So that it kind of, for me, it was a stew. So both things kind of happened and were dependent on each other. So it started with an idea for a story, then I saw a map, then I started writing the story, then I had to modify the map, and it just kind of parallel both developed. Of course, you know, chaos principle. Of course, that's how I did it.
Levi, have you ever seen a map and been inspired by it to, like, you know, oh, I'm like the creative juices have immediately kicked in?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah. So with Phylactery, the design that I did, there are 2 maps in there from a Swedish map cartographer named Carl Sternberg, and he's done a bunch of the maps for the stuff that we've done. He's fantastic, great dude, solid, total professional. But he did. I was running along with bonus content. So, you know, because I honestly didn't expect the Kickstarter to kick up to $6,000 or whatever it did. So I kept having to add bonus content, you know, to justify why, you know. So I reached out to Carl because we worked together several times before, and I said, hey, do you have any maps, you know, just that you may have sketched just for fun or whatever? And he goes, oh, I've got a couple. So I took the maps that he had and took one, like, oh man, I can totally make a whole adventure out of both of these. So that's what I did. We had one that was an island, one that was kind of a hex crawl, and they ended up taking up, like, you know, 8 pages in the zine. Yep. So it worked out. But when I look at his stuff, I get super stoked. He has a real signature, real evocative style. If you've ever seen any of his work, he's Skull Fungus on Instagram. He's definitely
Okay, yeah.
Now, was this the Kickstarter that you did recently?
For Phylactery, yeah, the design.
I did, because I'm wondering if I actually backed that, so I'll get to see it.
Well, I'll send you a copy.
So
Oh shit! I want my
Levi
pledge back. Oh, sorry. See.
Levi sent me an advance copy of the PDF just to take a look at it. And one of the things that pisses me off about Levi so bad is I looked through the whole thing, and there were 2 errors that were spacing things. That
Oh.
was the only thing I said, hey man, take a look at this, see if it's what you wanted to do. But everything else was laid out nice. It was visually appealing. It's solid material. He kept asking, hey man, do you think this sounds dumb, or should I get rid of this? And I'm just like, this all sounds fucking great. I mean, what
Very
are you
kind of you.
talking about?
It took
No.
a long way to get to that point, though. So
Yeah. No, it's really good. Everybody who backed it and anybody who hasn't backed it, if there are extras, get one, because it's gonna be a really great product when it comes.
There
out.
is a North Texas RPG Con exclusive of the Phylactery. It's 50 copies, and instead of we have an Ian McGarty map in there. It's got a different cover and an Ian McGarty map. So
all right, you better hold one for me so they don't get sold out by like Bottolato buying them all and then upping the price and reselling them. Have to cup check him for that one.
How about you, Alyssa?
What about me?
The same. Have you ever looked at a map and got inspired to create something? Am I cutting out?
No, I'm
no, she's
hearing
just
you.
thinking.
I'm
She's just ignoring you.
Dumb question. Next. No.
Fuck you, Combs.
No, it's like it's a good question, and I want to say there's plenty of maps that I look at and I go, oh, that's beautiful. There, I really love it. But I'm not sure I've ever looked at someone else's map and gone, and now I want to write something for it. And it's and I don't mean that in a detrimental way. It's like when I do my own maps, I try to create stories for people like you to hook off, for for a GM to run with. But if I'm writing, then it's almost like I get more inspired by other people's writings, and it's like my brain switches somewhat. I go from mapping mode into writing mode. So I don't. In all truth, I don't think I have. And I certainly can't come up with an example of a map I've looked at and gone, I'm inspired by that. Now, conversely, I have looked at real world terrain and been inspired by it. I did an entire campaign based off a coastal trip I did once. And I was sitting there at the spa, as you do, in a little nightgown with a wine in my hand. And I was looking at this cove. And it was this wonderful shape. And there was no one in front of me, and it was like, and it hooked around, and there was this little outlet that went out to the ocean. And from that, I then created a map, and I created an entire player's guide, and I created an entire world and a scenario, a campaign that lasted 3 years from that one experience. So,
oh my gosh,
I think real world terrain gets me more than someone else's map. Like, I mean, I'll look at a forest or a hill or a bluff, and I've got an encounter going in my head from that.
Well, I know on Facebook you've been posting a bunch of old Egyptian pictures and photos for your Masks campaign. So that tracks in pretty on brand.
The two of you actually on my entire feed of gamers, I think you two are probably the most dedicated Lovecraft fans in my entire feed. As far as, especially as it translates into RPGs, for sure. Would I be off in saying that?
Oh no, I think that would be extremely accurate. And what's going to be even crazier is hopefully this year, if not this year, next year, Alyssa's going to write some Lovecraft scenarios for Necromancer games.
Heck yeah. Perfect.
We're going to see if I can actually write. I've actually done a little bit of writing. I did a castles thing for Paizo back in the day. It was very painful. It was hard. Um, it was one of those scenarios where they contact because I used to post a lot of castle pictures, and I swear to God they contacted me and said, "Hey, you post a lot of castle pictures. Will you actually write a castle book for us?" I'm like, "Oh, that's two very different things." And I won't lie. I mean, it was actually pretty freaking tough. Writing is not easy, but I do a lot of my own work. In fact, honestly, 99% of what I run, I write myself. So I think, and I tend to write it like I'm going to give it to someone else, and they're going to run it, and I lay it out and everything, and the audience is one. But I write it like I'm going to give it to other people. That's just I've always been in that mode, little sort of read this to your players. No shit, Sherlock. You're the GM. But that's how I do it. And so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity for maybe trying to get my teeth into a little bit of writing for Necromancer games. And I mean, I think it's going to be painful at first, but I'm going to give it a go.
Well, what was funny about Alyssa's pitches for the scenario she was interested in is they tie in almost perfectly to some pitches I also had. So I think we're going to try and collaborate on some things and see what comes of that stew.
I've actually got another one bouncing around in my head, Skeet, that I won't say on the stream, but I'll throw it at you and Edwin. I've got this other half baked idea right now that is kind of giving me the creeps, which I think is a good thing.
I'm in.
So I'll throw that out too. I've been quiet recently with everything going on, but I've got a small book of ideas.
That is awesome.
Perfect.
Look forward to it.
I want to do more World War One Cthulhu, but hey, that's just me.
Well, now, how did you guys get into to Lovecraft to begin with? Like, how did that happen? Because that's not a choice that everyone makes,
Mine started with the stories. So I saw, and I remember it. I was in a bookstore. I was young. I saw The Tomb paperback book and Other Tales, and I got that, and I randomly picked one of the stories, and it was not one of his more famous stories, but it absolutely terrified me. And then I finished the book and then went back to this little tiny bookstore, which was Heritage Bookshop in Renton, Washington, which is also where I discovered D&D, because they had a spinner rack that had D&D stuff on it, and that's where I first got it. But yeah, it was a story about some guy found an underground crypt under a city or something, and he was wandering around, and he knew there were albino apes that were supposed to live down there, and anyway, he's going through there, and it's all this terrifying and this weird animal hooting and hollering and shit down there. And you come to find out at the end of the story, it's a regular guy who got trapped down there and was just missing for decades. And he became this scary thing. And I was just like, that is so horrible, because that could actually happen.
Mind blown.
And then I was just hooked. And then it wasn't until significantly later I found out there was a D&D game based on Lovecraft, and I was like, what? Sure. So then I played it a couple of times, but those Call of Cthulhu campaigns always crapped out really fast because nobody was into the stories, so they didn't really do it. And then it wasn't until decades later I got invited to Stephen Getty ran an off-books Call of Cthulhu game at North Texas, and I got to be in with this huge group of people that I have since become really good friends with, and I try to do it every year. And now it's just like I'm a junkie. It's like I either play or run a Call of Cthulhu scenario at any convention I'm at, because I just love it. It's fantastic. And one of the reasons why I love that rule set and that concept is I introduced my wife to it. And because she has a detective mentality and she likes the interaction and the role play more than the game mechanics of systems, she loved it. Like
Mm.
I could get a campaign going with her as a player in a heartbeat. If I could find some more people, I would do that. But yeah, that's one of the better things. Like Getty's game is just bumping up to being a LARP because everybody is like gets up and they act out what their characters are doing and they get into character and it is very immersive and so much fun.
Right.
Last time I got to do it, I played like an 18th century Mother Superior. So I got to be a penguin and I got to treat everybody like they were in trouble all the time. And it was fantastic. But yeah, that's how I started. Alyssa, how did you start? Did you used to be a nun?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure.
you look at me and you just see none, right? Um,
I absolutely do.
no, I mean, for me, we got into role playing through like the red box, blue box, Dungeons and Dragons, but like it was a golden era of like this plethora of different games, right? I mean, I still own a lot of them. It was a beautiful, beautiful era. So many different systems out there, and fortunately, the group I was in, we wanted to play them all, and we vowed that we would do like a spell of Dungeons and Dragons, and then before the next GM kicked in with the next campaign, we would run something else. Anything else. And this is where we did our Gangster, our Boots Hill, our Rune Quest, and we were playing every week, so like we're just lapping this shit up. And for me, I don't know how or where I ended up. In fact, it was a friend. A friend of mine had a Call of Cthulhu book, and I think it was like a source book. It wasn't even the original rules, and I think it was like by Gaslight. And I remember reading this section where it was going into autopsies, and it was talking about rigor mortis and shit like that, and I loved it. I was like, holy shit, I am getting my learn on. I'm getting a little bit creeped out. What is this game? And I ended up like going off. And it might have been first, second edition. I snagged like Call of Cthulhu. The group, because we were into just playing anything, we're like, yeah, let's play it. And it has such a different dynamic. It's not
Yeah.
about the dice, how they roll up. It's not even about your stats or your skills. And coming from a D&D thing where it is about your stats, it's like, and it is definitely about your rolls. And to suddenly go into a very story-driven game, even back then, it was very story-driven. To one where no, the players are going to die or go insane at some point. It's inevitable, And having players accept that, it was just so different than everything else. And I think that's where I got hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's with the world we live in right now with the social distancing and the people moving to virtual online. Call of Cthulhu games are perfect for online games because you don't have a lot of tactical movement. You don't have to have a
Right.
specific map. Like on Zoom, they have a whiteboard. I mean, you can show, okay, yeah, here's the building you're in. Whereabouts are you? Oh, it doesn't matter. Something jumps out of the wall and fucking kills you. That kind of stuff. I mean, I'm in a game periodically with a bunch of guys from that Stephen Getty group. Um, and yeah, we're doing Zoom and we just chat. We get off topic like constantly. But the game is set in Costa Rica, and it's because the guy who's running the game went to Costa Rica with me and my wife and a bunch of other people. He wrote it for them and he started running it. And we didn't get very far in, which is why I'm in it now. But he does it so atmospherically, it's like you feel like you're there. And I just that kind of immersion, I mean, you can get that from modern games. I mean, you can get invested in the games, but it's just different. I mean, Call of Cthulhu has some gravitas to it that just other games don't have. And it's not that it's you can't do it. It's just I think it's more baked into the system.
I think that's true because I own and have played like Cthulhu D20. It's not the same.
Mm-mm.
You lose something for some reason, and I don't know what it is. I mean, Jack actually runs a very Cthulhu inspired Shadowrun game. Now Shadowrun is
I
buckets of
wouldn't know
dice.
because he's not inviting me, the bastard.
Well, I think he's talking about actually running these things at conventions. He was going to do North Texas. That was going
I
to be the
know.
first time he actually ran one. And it's horror. I mean, it's outright horror. I mean, you're kitted up. You've got your gear. You've got your chameleon suit on. You look like something out of Altered Carbon. You look at the character sheet, and then Jack describes this encounter. And you go, "Oh no, I'm out of here. Me
Yeah,
and my grenade
yeah.
launcher, we're gone."
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
fuck that. We're
Cthulhu.
gone. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's just there's a vibe to it. The first year I got to go with Zach to Crit Hit Con. I went down there in Arizona, and I ran a Cthulhu scenario that was based on an amusement park that is like 3 blocks from where they were running the convention, and it was underground, and there was a sinkhole, and all this stuff started happening, and it was Zach's friends, and it was a group that he has gamed with before, and it was late when we started, so everybody had been drinking. But I started acting out the creepy shit that was going on. Like we were in a hotel room, so when something was coming around a corner, like I would go in the bathroom and then just stick my hand around the corner and be, really creepy, and you know, acted like the girl from The Ring,
Right
like
on, right
that
on.
that kind of shit. And I mean, they were screaming. I had them actually outbursting from it, and I think that's just a thing you get when you tell somebody, all right, we're gonna do some Call of Cthulhu, and it's not the monsters. I
Mm.
I don't I don't go in for the, okay, get your rocket launcher, you're gonna fight,
Nope.
Nyarlathotep. That's not it. It's
Nope.
the cultists and the debased shit they can get up to that I just run with that stuff. And I mean,
Atmosphere.
people are
Atmosphere.
awful.
Phantom Jen actually asks, Levi, have you ever played Call of Cthulhu or anything like it?
I have. I mean, I'm a massive Lovecraft fan. I have been ever since I picked up the deities and demigods and saw that beautiful Errol Otis artwork.
God, I love that stuff.
That was my gateway into Lovecraft, and then from then on, I scoured and every bookshop I could find to find paperbacks and everything I could find. But yeah, I played quite a bit of fourth edition, but never really anything past that. I mean, that Sandy Peterson fourth edition was my gateway to Call of Cthulhu RPGs. However, I had much the same problem that Skeeter had. I could never find groups that would want to stay together for too long. It was either that they were way too much into D&D and the character building and the power gaming, or whatever that was. And when they didn't get that in Call of Cthulhu, they started to kind of wander off. Or the people who were into that, maybe they weren't the best storytellers, or maybe it just wasn't for them.
Right.
So it'd be 2-3 games here, a game here, whatever. But I dearly love the system. If I had probably one game to play for, if I could only choose one, it would be Call of Cthulhu.
Right on.
Yeah, that was the problem with my group growing up. I mean, when I was a preteen and teen and going through high school, I kept pushing, hey, let's try this, let's try this Call of Cthulhu game. Oh, check out this box set. Let's play Star Frontiers. All anybody wanted to do
Right.
was play D&D, and we played Forgotten Realms. In second edition, that was what we did. And I mean, we must have played through every product released. and it was fantastic. somebody asked me, because besides the small publishing thing, one of my other big soapboxes is edition wars.
Mm.
Mm.
I despise edition wars. If somebody has a favorite, that's awesome. Have your
Mhm.
favorite game, no problem. But shitting on somebody because they like to game a different system than what your personal favorite is, that's dumb.
I've never understood it. I don't get it.
My my probably well, one of my most favorite campaigns was when I was a kid. I was playing in a Greyhawk campaign. I was either running or playing. It was Greyhawk. It was AD&D. Man, I got the DMG and the player's handbook. I would go everywhere with those things.
Hmm.
Second edition came along. Me and my high school friends played Forgotten Realms. Crazy. Third edition came out. That's when I got in the business. Um, Pathfinder came out. I got to be in a long running game with my wife. I was the DM. My wife was a player, her coworker, and our friend, and another one of my friends. That I loved that campaign because I got to game with my wife. I mean, that was awesome. Um, I only got the opportunity to play a couple of games of fourth edition. Had fun. Fifth edition, I for some reason, fifth edition, my brain does not grasp the game mechanics of fifth edition the way it has grasped everything else. So I feel stupid when I'm playing, but I've had a blast. I mean, it is the game flavor of the time, so we do it. I just think you can have fun if you're having fun with the people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I used to have a rule that this is long before I started going to cons, but that I didn't want to play D&D with somebody that I didn't feel I would enjoy going to the movies with. You know, like if I can't stand to be
Solid.
around you for 2 or 3 hours, I just don't want to play D&D with you. Now, as I've gotten older, I've relaxed. You know, I'm not quite as uptight as I used to be, or as angry as I used to be. So, um,
Yeah, I'm
you know,
getting worse. I don't know what's happening. I'm getting less tolerant. Um, but no, that's actually, and I noticed my gameplay because that's really the only time I get to play is at conventions, person to person. And it used to be for a long time. I mean, we had kind of amongst my friends, we had a head count. So how many characters did you kill this weekend? You know, that was a thing for the longest time, and that was huge in Frog God. I mean, between Bill and Matt, if you're not in the high two or three dozen character deaths, you're not pulling your weight. You know, and now over the last couple of years, and especially when I'm running people through Crypt of the Science Wizard, I want to see people succeed. I mean, I am legitimately impressed with how people plan their tactics now, trying to figure things out. Because the traps in Crypt, I don't necessarily have a plan for you to overcome them. There isn't a right way to do something.
right,
Figure this shit out. These traps are designed to kill you, not for you to overcome.
right.
You know, so it's actually fun to watch people kind of puzzle out and figure it out. And I'm rooting for the players to win.
I think that's the fun of GMing, though. To
Yeah.
me, at least, is because even if you wrote it, and even if you're running the game, you don't know necessarily where it's going to go. And I think if you do know where it's going to go, then what's the point in a way? And um, I love seeing the players innovate and come up with something and go off somewhere. And I'm like, holy shit, because now it becomes a story for the GM as well. As much as the players.
Oh, I have had coughing, laughing fits, cracking up over some of the just heinous shit people have tried to come up with. I mean, just some ridiculous ideas that I would have never thought in a million years. if I had 100 monkeys on typewriters, they could not come up with the weird ass plans I have heard some people try and do. And their logic arguments are just mm, beautiful to listen to because it's like, no, on no planet would that work. But it's like, hey, the dice will say it. You roll some dice, and we'll figure out if your harebrained plan works.
Well, that's really the beauty of DMing, anyway. Is you never know where it's going to go. I mean, honestly,
Right.
unless you're just railroading them into a spot. I remember running one of the play tests for Howling Crater, and the players got one taste of the crater mutants, and all their despicableness, and they
Like
said,
literally, did they try to eat one?
no, but
Oh man,
one of them did get dragged off to be eaten. But,
yeah.
they got one taste of that, and they're like, "Nope, we're not doing this." And they went back to town, and I had to invent this whole town on the fly and interactions there, and what the next thing was going to be, because they were like, "We don't want any part of that. We're not going back there." And you just stop the game. You tell them, "Nope, the game must go on."
Yep.
So we went and did something else.
So that's actually a question for both of you guys. I know there's always kind of the design principle of sandbox game design or scripted ABC linear progression. What are your thoughts on that?
Levi, go.
Sometimes I get super pissed off about when people say, "Oh, I'm presenting a sandbox adventure to let you do whatever you want." And it's like, okay, so you didn't write a coherent story? Like you're just presenting this stuff here. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
All of my Planet X games have all been sandboxed, all the way up to Escape from Skullcano Island. They're all very sandbox, where there might be a kind of a timeline going on, but you don't have to stick to it. It's all there for you to uncover and explore, and just kind of at your own pace. I mean, things will happen if you don't take care of other things in a timely manner, but
so there is an umbrella level story going on. I mean, there's a reason for people to be there. Okay.
Sure. Well, not so much with Mummy Bride, but with Howling Crater for sure, and then especially for Escape from Skullcano Island. There's a definite reason for you to be there, but once you get to those shores, on this crazy Isle of Dread meets a Black Sabbath song island, how you go about it, that's up to you. There's no scripted encounters. It's just this is where things are, and go for it. But when I did the Necromancer games, the horror out of Hag's Jaw, that was a linear adventure. That one was, you show up in the town, and then there's a cascade of events that end with one of two things happening. So
right.
But I would say I prefer sandbox.
Alyssa?
Well, I think, honestly, when a lot of people say sandbox, like, yeah, I'm running a sandbox game, they're not. There's different definitions of a sandbox. And I say that because I have actually been a player in a true sandbox game a couple of times, and it was the same GM that kept doing it. And they can actually, I think, be painful unless the game, the setting, and the players understand what's going on. Literally, it was like an Earthdawn game. And it like one of them was an Earthdawn game, another one was some kind of superhero game. And it's like, we're superheroes, okay? And it's like, go! And it's like, so
right.
What do we do? So a bad guy
they
is it something like? And it's like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I guess I'll go have a cup of coffee or something. And so the middle ground of that is, I think, then where you've got an environment, you've got some encounters, you've got some hooks for the players to pursue. But you're gonna leave it open for where they go and how they get there.
Yeah.
And I think it's not rails, but there's a framework there, right?
There's a fence.
And I think there needs to be a little bit of that, and the players can hop the fence, right? And I think Call of Cthulhu, especially I'm running Masks right now, and the players are talking about going up to Scotland. Well, they should have the freedom to do that. Do I have
Right.
anything right now if they go to Scotland? No, it's not part of the main campaign, but I'll come up with something and that's fine. So I think having seeds and plot hooks and things for them to sniff and chew at and go at and allowing them the freedom to do it, I think that can totally work. Not, I mean, if you're running a 4-hour con game necessarily, you know.
Oh yeah. No. No. That's a whole different animal.
In fact, I'm not going to name names, but there was a convention I went to recently. I sat down for a sandbox zombie game, and I think that actually suffered because the GM actually wasn't thinking sandbox. The GM, the players, and we were playing ourselves at the con. That was the thing. And so the whole idea was that you hear a crash and screaming in the foyer. What do you do? Well, I happened to be sitting there at the table with, like, seriously, like, there was a veteran there, an army vet. There was an ex-medical army vet there. There was a scientist sitting at the table. And everyone was like, okay, we do this. And we went in the complete opposite direction on what the GM thought we were going to do, what he planned. He actually
Right.
had planned out the foyer. He had planned out and walked around the front of the hotel. He had actually mapped out the roads in this area. That's not sandbox now. Because the players went,
Right.
"Wee!" And he was like, and he said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd do that. It's sandbox, motherfucker. Of course
Yeah.
we did."
Yeah. No, I did a game a lot like that at GaryCon several years ago. Jason Bullman from Paizo Publishing was running a end of the world game. And apparently that's some rule set. They have all these different scenarios like a zombie apocalypse, War of the Worlds, and all this shit happens. And you play you and you describe what you would do in this apocalypse situation. And he did not expect me to be me at all. And I mean, we came up with some very interesting ideas, and he had to kibosh a couple of them. But you know, we were taking the padded office chairs and using them as a barricade and battering ram to run over zombies and pull down tapestries and jump on them with that because they couldn't bite through the cloth. And he was just like, "Would you stop? You know, what am I supposed to do with this?" You know, I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm trying to be a survivor." But that also kind of ties in with my issue between old school and new school game systems. Like a lot of people are into. We'll just take Swords and Wizardry for an example. People love the Swords and Wizardry game set, and they hate the Pathfinder game because it has a list of skills and it has all this math you have to do and stuff like that. And I understand that, but like for my wife, when she was getting into playing D&D, that list of skills helped because then she knew what some of the options were. It wasn't like having this wide open, you know, okay, you see a hallway, there's a door at the end of it. What do you do? And it's like, well, what can I do?
Right, I mean,
Like,
it
well,
almost goes into character generation too, in a way, right? If it's a little bit
right,
too open-ended, it's like, well, what skills do you want? Like, I think for some
right.
people that could be, well, what can I have? Well, what do you need? Go, just name it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
What kind of character do you want to play? Well, what are my options? Well, you can be a fighter, cleric. Do you want to cast spells? Do you want to be a thief? Do you want to? Well, I'll be a fighter. What race would you like to be? Well, shit. What are my options? You know, having some of those things delineated can, you know, it kind of depends on your personality because it can help people by giving them options to choose from where they don't have to, you know, pull all of this out of just some random, you know, what terminology do I use? You know, I've seen people get stuck who are new players just be overwhelmed by the openness of the easy systems.
mm.
So that's again kind of the sandbox versus fenced, you know. I think as a DM you need to read the room and see what you're dealing with, to offer help. Because just stranding somebody, the worst thing is they'll be, playing the game, but they don't say anything because they don't want to sound stupid or give um, the wrong action. I don't want to say, "Oh, I shoot him with my laser gun." It's like we have bows and arrows, and then somebody automatically feels stupid, and then they don't play anymore, which is absolutely not the intent. So I don't even know what the fuck we were talking about. I went off on a deep tangent that time.
Tangents with Skeeter.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I need a break. That was way off in the weeds. Uh, so how's the map going, Alyssa?
Map's going good, as you guys have been talking
We
in the
should
background.
probably talk about the map.
Well, I've been just colouring in this little very nice
No,
little
I've been
square
looking at
here.
it, and I get irritated at Alyssa because she makes it look so easy.
It kind of is, man. It kind of is.
No, I've still got the miniatures out there in the living room from the last time I talked to you about painting, and they aren't painted yet. They haven't painted themselves.
Alyssa, did you say you were playing Masks?
Yes.
And that's Masks of Nyarlathotep?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is my favorite adventure of all time. Across all systems, it's my favorite. Now, I remember buying the old box set and sitting down, spending all this time to plan everything out, sitting down with my players to run it for the first time, and it's got all those beautiful, props and illustrations and whatnot, and then sitting down to play it with them, and nobody got it.
Oh, really? In what way?
Well, it was partly my fault as an inexperienced Call of Cthulhu DM or gamekeeper. And also, again, like Skeeter was saying, sometimes you got to read the room. This was not the group for Masks. So I've always wanted to play it. Like I've read it a bunch of times. I think it's flawless. I mean, it's just the pinnacle of adventure writing. But
yeah,
man,
it's good. The writing is solid. I'm actually thinking about running it virtually too.
I want in.
Like,
So
yeah,
good.
people like you two guys, and just rerunning it just because I think you could. I think, with a different group, I think it could turn out every time. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's like, so I actually had this big, huge Call of Cthulhu layoff. I played it and ran it a lot in England. Then when I came over to the United States, no one would play with me. But I kept accruing these bucks. I've got this big collection. And we had a player leave the group, and that was kind of the opportunity to say, can I run this, guys? And at that point, I had actually bought Masks. And I actually went ahead and I got the prop set too. And
was the really expensive one?
yeah, it's about 150 bucks, something like that. And
Yep,
it's
I've got it back there behind Saturn.
primo. It is primo.
So beautiful.
I got goosebumps opening up this thing. Every time the players go to a new chapter and I get to break open the props, oh my god, it's giving me goosebumps. Just having them, there's one passage in Masks, and there's no spoilers here, but it's a medical record that you can get hold of. And in the official scenario, it's broken out as a couple of paragraphs, that the players can get hold of. Well, this prop set it's a full-on medical record. It's like this thick, and it's a proper bound with the little clip things, and you give that to the players, and it's actually sealed. It's like classified. You have to break the seal, and you open it up, and you have this full analysis of one of the NPCs, and it's like, holy balls, that's what I like. You plop that on the table, and the players
I don't know how the Lovecraft Society puts out the props that they have. That box set, it's a hundred and something bucks, worth every penny. And that thing, I opened it once, and I cannot close it fully again.
right.
I mean, there's
right.
so much stuff in it. I have one of the boxes of the essential salts that they sold, so it's a jar just full of this dust. I didn't even open it. the shipping box. It's sitting there on my shelf. It's like I'm not gonna fucking touch it because I don't know what's really in there. I mean, that could be something.
Their stuff is really, really, really solid. I wish they would actually do a horror on the Orient Express one too. I would throw down for that hard. But masks, Levi, has actually been huge fun to run. Huge fun. I've got a good group for it, in all fairness. But it's been. I actually ran the prelude at North Texas last year too for a private group, and that was fun as well. And one of the players was exactly the same for my regular group, so he was playing it twice, and it still turned out completely differently.
Right. I think it's one of those ones you can play. The same group can actually, if you have a long enough break in between, you can go so many different ways that the same group can play it just again and again.
It was one of those funny things for me though, because sorry to interrupt, Ski, because I'm getting back into Call of Cthulhu GMing for the first time in 20 years or something like that. And I get onto these little Facebook groups and I'm like, okay, so I'm getting back into the system for the first time in a while. You know, what would you recommend I run? And everyone's like, just try this one. It's the actual intro scenario from the book. Or maybe just try this over here. Yeah, the haunting, exactly. Yep. Which I read. But then I was like, fuck it, I'm running masks. I'm going all in.
I have played in masks twice. And both times, we have never left America.
Really?
Everybody is fucking dead before we leave America. Yes. Because I am playing. Shit is going to get out of hand quickly.
My players have been I'm not going to do any spoilers, obviously. My players have managed to do the Prelude, America, and England. And they kind of fucked up in England. Skeeter, I did PM you when they did it. It was like, oh my god. But otherwise, they're played really smart. And it goes back to the point we were talking about earlier, where I'm not going to penalise players if they play smart, especially in a game like Call of Cthulhu, where you need to play smart. And they have just been on it. They've been on it. Now, they have started to suffer from the insanity aspect, their max sanities are creeping down, and they're going, oh, maybe we should get some psychoanalysis, which is good. That's the way I want it. But thus far, 2 close deaths, 2 possible deaths, but otherwise, no, they've been fine.
Yeah, the last time I got to play was online, and we were doing a weekly session, and something happened. I don't remember what it was, but I lost enough sanity that I went insane, and my insanity was amnesia. So I had forgotten everything that made me insane, and I was perfectly normal. And it was the trippiest thing, because it was always like the guy who was running it was telling me, okay, if something triggers this so you get your memories back, you're going to be in this insanity loop going back and forth. And I'm just like, bring it on. That's like my everyday. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think this is a really good time to be gaming, and it's not awesome that we have a super virus trying to kill everybody, but it's great for virtual gaming.
No, for sure.
And
podcasts.
Doing these podcasts. Zach and I have had a lot of good luck. We've gotten some great guests, and we're getting more, and lots of funny times, and we get to watch Alyssa make maps.
Throw a link to your channel in the chat. Feel free, just so people know. God damn it, Zach! It's what it's called. Hit him up with a sub, everyone.
Where is my sister, Phantom Jen?
Yeah, Phantom Jen can do it. Or King Bashman. Yeah. And King Bashman, if you want sub to them, your friend, get the hell out.
Yeah, let me see if I can figure this out. Yeah, the fact that I run the tech for Goddammit Zach is really sort of mind blowing. It's not a good look, but we have fun, and I think we come off as very authentic.
There you go.
Well, that's the strength. You guys are being yourselves. That's the strength of the show.
Oh man, it would be such a disaster if we tried to be online
Right?
personality. God, that would be
Right.
horrible.
Exactly.
That's the funny thing is
No, nobody wants to see that.
meeting people at conventions and having them go, "Oh shit, you are really just like that all the time, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, my poor wife. She is an angel." And yesterday was our 10-year wedding anniversary. So
Yeah,
Congrats.
congratulations.
love you. We had a epic wedding renewal planned in a castle, and virus fucked that all up. So
Yeah, that was a shame. That was a shame. I
yeah,
was
that's a
looking
bummer.
forward to that. It was going to be a good one.
Yeah, but I think we're going to redo that castle trip for Jen's 50th birthday. So that's
Perfect.
gonna be a party. If I'm not crippled by then, so old dude. Oh shit, I hear her coming. Yeah, no, that's all I got right now.
Well, that's actually pretty close to the hour and a half that we were actually scheduled on this too. I'm just gonna take a
Has it
moment.
been an hour and a
It's
half?
been an hour and a half. We've been chatting. Well, actually, we've been chatting longer than an hour and a half. The stream's been going an hour and 20. I'm gonna take a moment just to show people what I've been doing over here. I've
Yeah,
been
look at that.
I've been colouring these fields, and obviously the buildings, and I came up onto the hill. Just prior to the stream, I coloured in these little windmills and the leaning wizard's tower on the top there. Added the little paths, yada yada yada. On stream, we did these farms. I might come back and actually make one of those a little stronger in yellow, but those farms are done. And we did this little plaza area here, which I think is maybe one of my favourite areas of the city. I really dig that.
You're such an asshole. I mean, that is so good. It's like Jesus, come on.
This has been a fun map, and the noble dwarf folks, they're gonna print this sucker big, like they're gonna have this massive canvas print of it.
I would be like a kid coloring with crayons with my toes compared to this. I mean, jeez.
And funny enough, there's actually very few maps that I colour that I'm happy with the colouring results, but I think that's part of it, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have this as writers as well. You're always trying to evolve, you're trying to get better, you're critical of your own work. But this is coming out okay. It's like, but I look at something like this and I go, is it too green? And I'm always fighting away from green. This area is going to be a lot grayer down there, but like, is it too green? Is it too fertile? But I'm like, by the time I've done the city,
Take
I'm
a
sure
look
it'll
at
be
a
fine.
map of Washington. You
Right.
will not see anything too green. I mean, and Jen just popped in and said hello.
Hello.
To both of you. So,
So I'm gonna be back on probably Monday night, and we're gonna call it in this dockyard area. I think on Monday, Tuesday. That's gonna be the plan, and we're just gonna sweep down Monday, Tuesday, and then into Wednesday. We're gonna do this beautiful area here, which I'm really looking forward to, especially with those tidal mills that we've got going on there. And we'll just keep going. Maybe next Thursday, next weekend, we might have all of the colouring actually done. This area is going to be lots of wood roofs, lots of industry, and lots of smog. So that's going to be kind of a bleak area of the map. But hopefully by the end of next weekend, that side of the city will be done.
so what product
Wow.
is this for?
This is
I mean, I know it's Lightharbor, but is this a city book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and if they're in the chat, maybe they could even tell us what book
Yep.
it's for.
I
But
see Noble Dwarf right there.
there he is. He'll tell us. Can I get a zoom of the plaza? Yes. There we go. Let's zoom in on the plaza right there. But yeah, Noble Dwarf, tell us what this is for in the final part of the stream, please. I don't think they have a link yet, but they definitely have a name, and it's definitely going to be a full-on adventure setting.
Their royal capital city called Lightharbor. Ooh, 24 by 19. Man, that's gonna be good. And your map for GaryCon that I bought, I was able to get the small one. I gotta have you sign that. That is an amazing piece of work.
I actually had a huge amount of fun doing that map for the Gary Con folks, and I feel eternally grateful that I had the opportunity, and I would like the opportunity to keep doing them in future years if they would have me do it. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get the posters out in time, but
Yeah,
having the
I'm gonna
canvas
get
ones, it makes me happy.
I'm gonna get one of the posters for when I go to GaryCon next year, so I can actually figure out where I am. Because that place is the worst for figuring out where you are. There's so many branches, and I don't pay attention to shit anyway. So I have ended up in hallways, and I'm just like, I just stand there waiting for another human, and I'm like, please take me back,
I worked off when I was
take
doing
me
that
home.
map. When I was doing that map, I worked off the hotel map, which is more of a fire map, but I worked off the hotel map, which doesn't have a direct correlation to where game rooms are at, right?
Right.
I then worked off last year's zoom ins of the game areas, and I worked off satellite shots and last year's map by Steve Sullivan. And I basically found inconsistencies in all of them. So we actually had one of the GaryCon crew walking around the hotel, taking photographs and sending them back to me. And I was looking at photographs. I go, okay, so this is what I think it's meant to look like. I think it's possibly, I think it's maybe one of the most accurate representations of that gaming area yet.
Good, because it definitely needs it. And hats off to Luke and Caroline and everybody from the staff. I mean, you guys pivoted from regular GaryCon to virtual GaryCon.
Real fast.
Really fast.
And they made it work. They made it work. It was outstanding.
Wizards of the Couch. I mean, it wouldn't have happened without all of you guys. So
yeah, they're a good crew. They're a damn good crew.
very
Noble
appreciative.
Dwarf, by the way, this map is for the Legends of Kalinria, and it's a full world setting that they are creating, and they're starting with the capital city.
I will definitely be checking into this.
Is that going to be
great.
direct or Kickstarter?
Yeah, Noble. If Noble will answer that in the chat. I think it's going to be a Kickstarter because they do tend to run Kickstarter. So I'm going to guess they're Kickstartering it.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely.
He says a combination. It's definitely it's going to be a combination of things.
Cool.
And hopefully, I don't know when they've got this planned for, but we should have this map done for that. I mean, I think the colouring is going pretty fast. Just with 50 minutes off camera, I managed to get a lot in this bit done. So maybe a few more off camera bits.
It's
I mean,
fantastic.
it looks like an actual map. I mean, my Google Maps that I follow aren't that detailed, so kudos.
Well, I wanna thank you both guests, Levi Combs and Skeeter. And Skeeter, maybe we do need to make this a regular thing because. And Levi, thank you so much. I know that your wife has been watching your kids downstairs, and I know that she's been doing some double shifts really hard. Military nurse, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, talk up your wife, man.
My wife is a superhero, man. She's
doing crazy stuff right now.
Yeah, she's started out as a combat medic, and now she's on the front lines here in California with the COVID stuff. So she's just going back to back, and she's nice enough to watch our youngest while I could come up here and debase your channel with my presence.
I'm glad that we had this opportunity to hang out, and hopefully all of the guests that we've got in channel have enjoyed listening to both of you talk. Thank you guys very, very much. Would love to have you back on.
Well, thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, well, thank you everyone. Again, I'm back on Monday, 6 o'clock Pacific time. We're going to keep on colouring Lightharbor, and we're going to keep on doing it every evening and next weekend until this sucker is done.
Finish it.
I don't know how many hours. I think I was estimating a 100-hour map. I think I'm going to stick with the 100 hours. I think we're still good for that. So this is going to be a good one. Thank you, everyone. Love you all. I'll see you Monday night.